Thank you very much, Maria. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be here today to speak about, something that I don't know much about, which is politics and youth engagement. I have some presentation just to support my thoughts, and I would like to start by reflecting upon something that is quite worrying for us in Europe, which is our aging continent. If we look at the global youth population and the developments that we have since 1950, we see that now, today, we are 1.8 billion of young citizens around the world, and we see that half of the world is under 30, and 9 in 10 of these young people live in developing countries. If we look at Africa particularly. Today, youth population is the largest ever in the world. But what worries me, and what should worry all of you, is that my generation, the current generation, is most likely to opt out of conventional political processes. And as we see on the map, and why I started by mentioning Europe as an aging continent, is exactly how do we engage then the less young people with politics. So we see that on the one hand, turnout in elections is decreasing. And if we see particularly it's different. If we see that since 1994, the EU elections have been having a decreasing turnout, since we have a big jump from 2014 to 2019. So we jumped from 42.6% to 50.6%. And why is this? Why did I want to show you this? Because this picture, in 2015, we see Santiago Abascal, the current Vox president, in his first election campaign. And if on the one hand we have trouble in recruiting young people to parties, to political parties, we have also an opportunity here. What is happening with the EPP family? Like in the past 10 years, we lost in the parliament roughly 100 seats in the parliament. But back in 2015, no one cared about Santiago Abascal. And he got 0.25% of the votes. But 2 weeks ago, the same guy was standing there in a fruit pallet. He's the face of a movement, of the third political force now in Spain, getting 3.5 million of votes. So we see that it is not an isolated phenomenon from Brexit, the Catalan separatism. This all is emerging from people's discontent, and disengagement with politics arrives in these kind of pictures. So how can we reconcile people's engagement and young people's engagement in politics? Because I start by I mentioned Santiago Abascal, and I don't know who is sitting here who follows him in Instagram and in social media. He's quite powerful, but we'll get there in a moment. According to the Eurobarometer from September, close to 3 in 10 voters below 25, they say they have decided to vote a few weeks before the day of the elections. And what I want to note here is that young people are more volatile in terms of casting their votes. When we have older generations that know more or less in advance in whom they are going to vote for, with young people it's different. And we see that with the new movements, for example, for climate, that the youth votes for causes. But there's something important, which is sometimes, because we have access to different channels of information, and the speed of information, the speed how the information is disseminated, can somehow distort how young people might cast their votes. And this is particularly worrying because it's not only for the youth is more exposed to it, but people can make important decisions such as voting based on incomplete or distorted information. So, this should play, but okay, what do I do to play it? No, it doesn't. Okay, no worries. So, they can check? This was just to illustrate what I'm saying. Because what I'm going to say next is that the young people, we are not disengaged completely with politics. We just think that we have other forms of participation. We are politically active. Who is sitting in this audience and doesn't give their opinion in Facebook or in Twitter on a daily basis? Everyone participates, particularly the young people. So we are involved, but we engage in a politically different and conventional way. If we think about the number of YouTubers, influencers, Instagrammers, and the people who follow them, the vast majority is young, is the youth. So we have to we as a political party, we have also to shift to it. We have to adapt our message, but we have also to communicate in a different way, in a more attractive way. So why is this relevant? In social media, we don't have the contradictory. Because YouTubers, for example, and I've been meeting some of them, they have their own agendas. So they are the agenda setters. So they just speak to a particular audience. And that same audience probably is not going to look for the contradictory version of the person that they are listening to. And so we have to do something because risks are too high of disseminating the wrong messages. Anyway, how do we reconcile all of this? How do we bridge the growing distance between young people, political institutions? How do we make political parties more attractive, sexier, if you want? We have to know first what are people's needs, with their concerns, and if we want to attract young people, we also have to consider how we are doing it using the social media. It's not enough that after a speech that we deliver that is available online. We have to go where young people are, be it at bars, in universities, whatever. We have to be there, we have to be where people are, we have to listen to them, we have to address their concerns. And perhaps it's still not enough. We also have to involve the young people and putting them in positions where they actually jump from the advisory council to the decision council, which is why I'm going to address you a question. Like, do you know from the 751 members in the parliament, how many are under 30 years of age? How many? Any guess? No, it's only 20. Someone said 30. It's 20. 20 young members under 30 years of age. So we have here a need to adapt our message, communicate differently, and put young people in the forefront, in the front line of the political debate, and making them also decide on what in what they can believe in, a future that they can believe in. And because we are close to an end, I think. Yeah, that's what the summary of. Just to finalize by saying that we know that the young generations can be angry, frustrated, disengaged, but we have a window of opportunity here to improve and to communicate to them so they can feel related to the politicians, the people that they see, not always in the news, but maybe in the Instagram, in Facebook, in YouTube, in Twitter, and in many other platforms that are going to come up in the coming years. Political parties have to be reinvented. They have to be ambitious. They have to be injected with fresh ideas, visions from the civil society, just not be completely closed and speak for themselves internally. No, they have to open up. They have to hear the civil society. And they have to transform themselves into entities that young people want to engage with. So let's make a political party attractive enough so people want to be part of it. They feel involved, they feel part of something. And I believe that we are still on time, but I think there's much to do for the little time that we have left. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lídia, for your stimulating talk. I would have one question for you. You said that young people and young voters are volatile and driven by a cause. Can they still be convinced by a traditional party doctrine?
Of course they can be convinced if the political party starts addressing the worries, the concerns that the young people have. For example, we are risking to be our generation to live worse off than our parents did. If we speak about the taxes, and let's think about countries that are troubled with public debt yet. We are still financing public debt with the taxes that are paid today. This is going to be a burden for the future generations. How do we sort this out? How can we assure that the people that are now going the first time for the job market are going to have the same conditions that there were maybe 20 years ago? Young people want to have perhaps a family and want to, have a normal life, but they have to have the means for it. But if we don't have parties addressing their concerns, for example, young people that are starting their job, maybe they should have some sort of tax benefits, or they have to speak to them. The same goes with environment, climate change. I mentioned this earlier in the speech. EPP and the center-right political parties, we cannot be a reactive party all the time. We have to put people at the heart of our policies because we are the people's party, and we have to address their concerns. But we have to have speech, a political message for them. This is how we embrace them. And also, I said it earlier as well, the communication. We have a very old-fashioned approach towards communication. We have to be innovative. We are the party that puts entrepreneurship on top of it. Why we are not entrepreneurs on the communication as well? Why we don't have YouTubers, influencers? We have an agenda, so let's put it forward. Let's speak. Let's show it to people. Let's be brave on doing that. So I think it's policies that young people do not relate with, and the communication. But mistrust also comes from the vices of the parties. When it comes to politics, we hear a lot about corruption, for example. We also have to have a clean candidates, clean faces in the parties that people know they can trust. This is also a matter for the young people as well.
Yes, all very important points. We have to listen, be proactive, and have clean and inspiring politicians like yourself, inspiring our audience. Thank you very much for your talk and sharing with us your ideas. Thank you very much.